Welcome back to the Point of Order podcast, an inside look at California politics in the state legislature. I am your host, Assemblyman Josh Hoover, and in like a 4-week span, we have Jeff Gonzalez returning to the show.
Here we go.
After a very short absence, a single episode absence, right?
I tell you, we're trying to get this thing going and get
it
rolling.
It's like, so happy to have you back. How have things been in the weeks that
in the long time since I've seen you? A ton of things have been going on all over the news. Josh, you know this,
True.
I know this. I know we're going to be digging into it today.
Yeah.
And it feels like a little bit like a sitcom and reality all wrapped into one. So I'm excited about today's show.
No, absolutely. It's been good. I wanted to start with a couple icebreakers, couple stories I saw over the last couple weeks that I wanted to just chat with you, get your opinion on. The first one, first of all, have you had any car accidents or health problems since daylight savings changed?
Ever since daylight savings changed, I had a little I have a little tickle. I got a little tickle in my heart. I have my honey and tea ready to roll, but that's the only thing. So I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going to go on.
It's got to be the clock change. I mean, that's the only thing that I was really. I always dread. My wife told me we're springing forward on Saturday morning. You know, like the day we were springing forward, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" Because I had just totally missed the memo on that. and I always hate that one. Right. That's always the worst one. Is the spring forward.
Well, as you know, I have a special needs son, and when I'm at home, every 2 hours we go and we have to turn him because he's completely disabled, needs our care. Yeah. So I have the 4 a.m. and when sometimes I'll do the 1 a.m. and the 4 a.m.
Okay.
And I got completely confused. I'm like, okay, if I have the 1 a.m., so does that make it the 2 a.m.? And then if I have the 4, is that at 5? Where do I get the extra hour of sleep? Or is it backwards? Or am I doing it twice? How about I just lay in the room and just call it a night?
There you go.
Yeah, it's a change.
Wow.
But I think some people are saying enough with the change. Is that right? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, so there's the Hill has a little story I put in the notes, but basically Roger Nilo in California, state senator, my senator, has introduced a bill to make permanent standard time permanent.
Yes. Permanent standard time permanent. Yeah.
That's
PSP time.
Yeah. So, and the 2 states already do this. You got Hawaii and you got Arizona. Those are the 2 that, sort of any state can do this. Right. They cannot go on daylight time full time. That's what you're prohibited from doing by Congress. A lot of people don't really why don't we just do daylight time? That's why, because they don't let you. So
what's the big deal here? I mean, honestly, what's the big conversation about doing it, not doing it? I don't get I like consistency.
I do too. Yeah.
I do get sometimes it's a little bit lighter, sometimes it's a little darker. I get that piece, but what's the big argument going on?
Well, I mean, it's sort of one of those things. So I'm going to say it how my senator says it. So I'm stealing his joke. Okay, I just want to make it clear from the top. Is that we all agree that we need to ditch the switch, but we don't agree on which switch to ditch. Does that make sense?
We have the California poetry in motion here today. There's students all over the Capitol.
We'll get Roger in there.
Roger needs to be a part of this.
But that sort of is the rub, right? So every time we have this conversation, there's unanimous agreement that nobody wants to change their clock anymore. But I think a lot of people would like to see permanent daylight time, which is prohibited by Congress. So you can't even do that if you wanted to. The health experts really say standard time is the way to go because it's better for your biological clock and all these different things.
My biological clock is ticking, Josh. It is ticking, and it's ticking loud. What do you think about this standard time versus daylight time?
I get the recreational people love daylight time. Right? They love it. The golfers, all the people that do outdoor activities love the daylight time because Greg Wallace, you get more daylight in your day, right? Now you kind of get that anyway with standard time because if we were on the same time throughout the year, the season still the sun still stays up longer parts of the year. Right. So I feel like we would adjust to it over time, but a lot of the recreation people want it to be daylight time.
When you get those recreation people united, they're a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, for sure.
They're a force to be reckoned with. So I don't know. Look.
Well, the other hard part too, though, is we're currently on 8 months of daylight time. So if you go permanent standard time, you're losing, like, that 8 months is gone, right? So you're on standard time for 8 more months than we are now.
So we'll be like Alaska.
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, so that's sort of their argument is they're like, hey, we've got 8 months right now of where we can do more business, right, than we could, anyway.
I think we'd adjust, but
so I think we would adjust.
This is a debate that needs to be had on the floor. And all recreation folks who are watching, they need to be, they need to give their input.
Well, the other issue too is all the states. So a lot of states have passed bills that say we'll do it as soon as all these other states do it, because they want to not be off. They don't want to be Arizona, where they're just like off with everyone for 8 months of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll see what happens. I honestly am at the point where I'm more open to doing what is allowable under federal law because it's the only thing we can do. And I'm just tired of the back and forth. And I feel like we'd adjust,
Yeah.
But I'm willing to be convinced.
All right. Time to talk to Roger Nilo.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he'll argue with you too. Yeah. Another big article making waves on Twitter this weekend was, I don't know if you saw this New Yorker article. I regret having children.
I saw that.
It's been floating around. I don't have the full article because I don't subscribe.
I think it was an episode of The Real Housewives also.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was a joke, but please continue.
I thought you were dead serious because I don't watch that.
Oh, yeah. No, my wife makes me watch it. Sorry, honey.
I actually used to watch the Orange County one with my wife just because I didn't watch it, right? You never set out to watch these things, but it's just on in your house.
Right.
And then you walk by and you're like, oh, what's Becky doing today? And then it's like, and then you get sucked into it or whatever. Becky. I don't know. I don't know if there's a Becky show, but
I don't know either. But she's going to get all the hate mail now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the tweet from New York Magazine, and this will just summarize it. Sooner or later, everyone has to decide whether to give up lazy weekends, disposable income, and overall peace of mind to have a baby instead. I added the emphasis there. For many of those on the fence, one anxiety looms large. What if I make the wrong choice? Parent regret is more common than you might think. And there's a subreddit that has 70,000 weekly visitors about parent regret. Though stigma makes it hard to admit it in real life. That's the summary of this article.
So you have kids.
Yes, I do. I have a lot of kids.
And so what is your thought about it? Let's tell the truth here, Josh. Okay, I don't mean to put you on the microphone and put you on the spot, but do you regret having kids when they wake you up at all hours of the night?
I regret having kids.
So you regret having kids. There you go. And cut. Done. I hope they got it.
I regret having kids many times a month. But at the same time, it's also the greatest thing I've ever done, probably will ever do.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to explain that to people that don't have kids, because people that don't have kids, it's like, oh God, that'd be horrible. It is horrible. And in some ways, right? Like there are days when you're like, what is happening? Right.
So for those that are watching that are planning on having kids, sorry, first of all, for this path that we're going down.
But also do it. I mean, do it. It's the greatest thing. I mean, it brings you more joy, I think, than anything else you will ever experience, in my opinion.
I don't regret having kids, nor do I regret marrying into a family with kids. I wish we would have had at least 13. I want a tribe of children.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, more presents on Father's Day, which is the important stuff, right? And no, but I can see why there'd be regret, this uncertainty of having kids, so on and so forth. But the reality is there is nothing like when my kids are adults now. Mm-hmm. When they come home and you give them a hug, it's just a different type of love. Like I just can't explain it. Having kids, and when they're grown and they come back and they still eat you out of house and home, but you still love them. You love them even more.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah,
it really is the greatest, and also very difficult, right? Yeah. And so, but I think the thing that frustrates me about the summary of this article is, like, give up lazy weekends, disposable income. Like, so much of that stuff is so superficial, you know. Like
someone without any kids that wrote this, I bet.
Well, I don't actually know, but it's like, I mean, lazy weekends. I mean, that's only fun for so long. Like I've talked to a lot of people because we had kids way too young. I mean, like My wife and I started, we didn't even know our 20s, right? We just had kids the whole time. I had 3 kids by the time I was 25.
Oh,
and
wow.
So, yeah. So, I mean, it was just a very different, I had a very different experience than most of my peers, right?
Sure.
But, and it was really hard. And we were super poor. and like, none of it was really like smart, right? But at the same time, it was an amazing experience. And I've talked to people who partied in their 20s and are now having kids in their 30s, and they're all jealous.
Right. Wish I would have had my kids
They're
early.
like, oh my God, I can't believe, like, I'm going to be 60 when these guys are out of, high school and, all this stuff. So I think, it's something you can never really explain. It's more of, to your point, a feeling, right?
Right.
When you're in it, where it's like, it's just the most amazing thing. So.
Jump in like a bowl of Jello.
But I don't think this article helps, man, because our birth rates are way down. This isn't going to help get them up.
So if what I'm hearing coming from you is go out, everyone have kids.
Yes, right now, today.
Right now, have kids, everybody.
Yep.
This is a good political conversation, I think, especially here in California. Go have kids. I like it.
Hey, man. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
But no, I've got 3 awesome kids and very no regrets.
That's great.
No regrets most days. No
most
regrets. Days. Yeah. All right, let's jump into our clip of the week. All right, you've been talking a lot about this issue, so I think this will lead into a good segue on what you've been working on the gas tax.
Right.
I want to talk to you about how that's been going, what your plans are. But first, I'm going to play this clip. It's a really short one from the head of Chevron talking with Ashley Zavala about the stuff going on in the oil industry right now.
I know Chevron and our competitors, we're having trouble, running our business in the state of California. If they add this burden of a tax on our refineries, I think it's just a matter of time. It's not whether or not they'll close, it's just when.
And in terms of Chevron specifically, I mean, are you all basically threatening to leave the state at this point?
Look, Ashley, we haven't made that decision, but it is becoming, that's why I'm talking to you. It's imperative that they do something. They have to get in front of this. Closing a refinery is not a reversible decision, okay? So if we close and we move out, we don't come back. I'm extremely worried. I do think we should declare an emergency in the state of California. I think lawmakers need to take this seriously.
So, gentleman from Chevron referring to some new CARB regulations. The California Air Resources Board is currently doing public comment. I think it actually ends today. We're recording this on a Monday. On some new regulations that are going to substantially burden refineries in California, even more than they already do. I think it's interesting there. He says, "Well, Chevron's not threatening anything. We're not saying like fix this or we leave. We're saying like if this happens, like we can't afford to be here." So,
right.
It's I thought that was a good distinction. But what are your thoughts on this situation and? Sort of what some of the stuff you're working on.
I look at this like the cliff, right? We were at the cliff, and if you've ever seen a movie about the like sheep or animals that are out at pasture and they're at a cliff, what ends up happening is the push from the back of the pack pushes the front of the pack over. We're at that place where that front of the pack is. A lot of them have left and fallen over.
2 refineries already.
Exactly. Yeah. So by continuing this push, it's gonna force them to leave. This is a situation, and I agree with Andy Walls. I think it is from Chevron. I agree. We're at a state of emergency. We have to make a decision, and that decision needs to be thought of, logically from a business perspective. Look. Everyone wants clean air. Everyone wants clean ground, clean food, all those different pieces, right? But we're at a place of timing. And that timing, our infrastructure does not support the electronic fleet of California. It just doesn't, right? Our infrastructure is not prepared, our personal infrastructure is not prepared to lose the refineries. We're in this middle ground by forcing these key decision points, CARB or the governor or whomever. It keeps on forcing these. It is that for every action, there's an equal and or opposite reaction, and the opposite reaction is about to take place. And you know who's going to pay for it? Californians are going to pay for it. So I'm proposing a bill that we suspend the gas tax. This, there's a lot of confusion as to what I'm asking for, right? People just hear the first part, suspend the gas tax, 61 cents. Oh, that's nothing, or whatever that means. But that's 61 cents times however many gallons you put into your gas, times the amount of miles you traveled. That could significantly help the average Californian, right? The working Californian. So by doing that, we're suspending that. So we can, A, walk and chew gum. We can suspend the gas tax and pay for those necessary repairs through the general fund. All people are hearing is suspend the gas tax, and how are we going to fix our roads?
Yeah, our roads
how
will
are we going to do this?
deteriorate,
Yes,
right.
our roads, I mean, I could take you to some roads throughout California. They haven't even been touched.
Yep, 100%.
Right? So I'm not saying don't stop fixing the roads. What I'm saying is let that money come in from a different pot, and that different pot is the general fund. But we need to take care of Californians. Californians have to come first. And right now, the special interests are coming first, and that's not the way we should be operating in California. We keep on pushing and pushing and pushing, and now we're at that cliff, and we have Chevron at that place where they're saying it's a state of emergency. So a leader will look at this and say, I need to make a hard decision. And that hard decision means I've got to do this and do that. Yep. I have to walk and I have to chew gum at the same time. That's what leadership is about, and that's the type of leadership we need in California for this next election coming up as well.
No, I love it, and I think you're 100% right on. We have to listen to this, right? And it's not about helping oil companies.
Right.
It's about protecting consumers. It's about protecting Californians, right? And I think that's the other part of this is that 61 cents a gallon. I mean, if my wife did that in her gas guzzler that I purchased her, that'd be like a month's free gas for the year. I mean, honestly, that's like a month you don't have to pay for gas, basically.
Yeah. And that could just be that break that Californians
totally
need.
Yeah.
That could be, and I know Tony Strickland, Senator Tony Strickland, is also introducing a bill. So we'll figure out how that works out in the legislature.
Yeah.
But the reality is, whether it's gas tax, whether it's the price of this or that, Californians need a break from the regressive taxes that we keep on imposing on them. They need a break, every single Californian. And this new leader coming in has to take that into account. And it can't be something that's done in 2030 or 2040. It has to be something that's done today. We need action.
Yeah.
The people of California are asking for action. Chevron is asking for action. Our agriculture community is asking for action. Everyone needs action. Enough talk. Let's get to work.
Yeah. And honestly, this might, I mean, timing-wise, this might be really important because with this war in Iran now, obviously we're going to see, I think, some pretty big spikes in the next few weeks. I thought it was interesting. Governor Newsom is trying to set up the president now about, blaming him for high gas prices in California, which is hilarious to me. In fact, his brag, I'll read you his tweet because it was too good. I don't know if you saw this tweet. I sort of retweeted it, but he was saying average gas prices in California have stayed below $5 for nearly 2 years until now. Like that was like a flex. And I'm like, wait, can you say that? Listen to that again.
The average hamburger has stayed under $100 for the last 20 years.
And I'm like, it's crazy, man. And so I tweeted
but that's how disconnected he is.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wait a second, like this is a terrible flex. Like, and then of course I checked that day, AAA's average gas ranking, California's at the top, $4.64 a gallon that day that he tweeted that. And it was like, you're the worst of all 50 states. And by the way, all those roads you're talking about fixing with the highest gas taxes in the nation, we drive on the 46th ranked roads in the country. So it's like, all right,
it's not
something's wrong.
Working.
It's not working.
I call it a broken California.
Yep.
His leadership has led us to a broken California. And if he takes on the highest seat in the nation, his leadership or lack thereof will lead to a broken United States. We need leaders who are trustworthy, leaders who can be held accountable, and leaders who look at the reality and stay connected. And when you say things like, we've stayed under $5, that is so disconnected.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
It's wild. Well, we're going to get to more about Newsom in a minute. I actually read his book. I don't know if
you did.
I did. So we're going to review it, or I'm going to review it and get your thoughts.
I love it. Yes.
All right.
Give me the clip notes. Let's roll.
Yeah. So we're going to do that in a minute. Young Man in a Hurry was the name of the book. It came out right after Greg and I recorded last podcast. And my goal, I was like, I'm going to read this thing.
Yeah. You timed it.
I tried to time it. It was hard to get through. I'll explain why in a minute. But first, let's hit a couple stories. So big story out of my district, right? You heard about this one. The parole board in California voted to release a gentleman by the name of David Funston, a criminal, a child molester who had victimized over 8 kids in my community, was actually sentenced over 16 counts of essentially child abuse and sexual abuse and of 8 children in Sacramento County in the 1990s, was sentenced to 3 life terms. So 20 years plus 3 terms of 25 to life. I mean, that's how serious this was. I actually talked to our former DA in Sac County who prosecuted him, and she said it was one of the most horrifying cases she ever worked on. Not someone that should be being released back into our community, but that's what the parole board voted to do. Thank God, the Placer County District Attorney took swift action upon his release. He was actually turned over to Placer County law enforcement officials and charged with new charges stemming from another abuse that took place in Roseville back in the 90s as well. So that I mean, he's back behind bars for now. But I think we've been asking, I think we both signed a letter calling on the governor to remove the people on the parole board that voted to release this criminal back into our community. He kind of came out, the governor came out and said, oh, the parole board's independent of me. I don't make these decisions. But he appoints the parole board, So it's like, hey, you might not make a decision on letting this guy out in this moment, but you do decide who gets to be on that board, and you need to make some changes there. And we also need to change the laws to make sure that this elderly parole program that we established in 2017 is changed so that we don't allow this to happen again in the future.
Josh, I feel very strongly about this particular topic.
Yeah.
As a 7-year-old, I was molested by a man. It took me till my adulthood to even process it, right? We're talking about 30, 40 years, right? Even though I look 21.
Yes.
It took me my adulthood to process it, to be able to talk about it, to even be able to have a conversation about it. Now it holds no anchor on me, no chain on me. If you touch a child, you don't get to be free.
100%.
Full stop. You touch my child, you don't get to be free. The fact that we are allowing people who hurt children, who sexually molested children, go out because of their age, it blows my mind that people are not at the Capitol protesting about this. It blows my mind that people are not up in arms saying, why did we do this? It blows my mind that we're not holding people accountable for releasing this individual. I talk about a broken California. This is a perfect example of a leader pushing off blame, a group of people doing the wrong thing for the community, and putting the criminal before public safety, putting the criminal before the victim.
Yep.
This needs to stop, and it needs to stop today. Folks need to reach out to every single one of these legislators and put pressure on them to make sure that this never happens again.
Absolutely. This elderly parole program that they put in place, just for people that aren't familiar with it, initially would allow you, once you've served 25 years of your sentence and you hit the age of 60, it would allow you to be considered for parole. And it included pretty much every bad crime you can think of, maybe short of murder, which I think was already unacceptable. And then the governor came back and the legislature came back in 2020 and passed a law changing that law that reduced the time served to 20 years and reduced the age to 50 years old. 50 years old. So under this law now, at 50 years old, you are now considered elderly.
Do
you feel elderly?
I look elderly and feel elderly because I'm over 50. That's preposterous that it would do that.
The fact that you can still call it an elderly parole law at this point is preposterous, right?
It's to show, it's really a shell game. It's to show that, oh, you see, we don't need this many people in prison.
Correct.
Where our rates of housing people in prison have gone down. But the reality is yes, they've gone down because you've lowered the bar. Mm-hmm. You've lowered the bar. Yeah. And it's just, it blows my mind.
And it shouldn't even be about prison overcrowding. It should be about, do we have enough cells to lock up the people that have committed the worst crimes? That's it. That should be your bar, right? And it's not like, obviously, you know, we've had some criminal justice reforms over the years that made sense, right? Like, you know, sort of reducing long sentences for, you know, marijuana violations and things like that. Like, I think we can all have adult conversations about those topics, but we're talking about the worst of the worst here. People that the Placer County DA didn't prosecute this guy for this other crime back in the 90s because he thought he was going away for life. And they decided that, you know, Sac County had already taken care of this guy.
Right.
Thank God they didn't, because now they're able to charge him for this new crime. Mm-hmm. But I mean, imagine that. You never would have thought that guy could ever even see the light of day.
Imagine the pain, the reopening of the wounds that the victims felt when they let this guy go. Imagine the fear, the trauma, the stress that they had to endure because of, I just call it laziness, legislative laziness. Yeah. And people pay for that. And
honestly, malpractice. I mean, it's just, it never should have even come to this, you know? So we're doing some bills. Obviously, Senator Nilo has a bill that would exclude a bunch of these really serious sex crimes from elderly parole, which I think has to happen. Sure. I've got a bill that would actually give the governor the ability to deny parole in these circumstances if he disagrees. And in this case, he said he disagreed.
Right.
He didn't have the power. He can only deny parole in murder cases under the current law. But, you know, I think that he should have this ability in more cases as well, if this were to ever happen again. But I want to see him put his money where his mouth is and actually hold some of these parole board members accountable.
Wouldn't that be interesting? To hold people accountable.
I know, right? But I mean, just really quick, and then we'll move on, because I know this is a real downer, obviously. I appreciate you sharing your story, because this is how incredibly important it is that we don't allow this to happen. But I mean, this gentleman, I'm reading in Ashley Zavala's article about this, but he had a hearing a couple years ago, where a parole board hearing, where the governor asked them to re-review the case after they were going to release him a couple years ago. The governor does have the power to do that. Say, hey, you need to look at this again. They did that. They decided to release him anyway. But in that hearing, they basically asked him, I'm having trouble finding it, but they basically asked him, like, are you going to offend again? You know, is this still a problem for you? And he straight up admitted, like, yeah, absolutely. I still have these urges. I still have these problems. My hope is that I'm never in a high-risk situation and I don't ever hurt another child. Are you kidding me? So we're putting all of this hope on a person that is admitting to your face that he still wants to commit these crimes, and you're going to say, you know, I think that satisfies me. He put an urge control plan in place that they were satisfied with.
An urge control plan.
I mean, just like, if that doesn't make you want to demand change in California, I don't know what will. You know, so anyway. That one got me real worked up, especially because this person's from my district. This criminal is from my district.
From your district, in your community.
In my community. And the judge described him as the monster that every parent fears, and basically said the 3 life terms he got, no one is more deserving than him. That's what the judge said in his trial. So, I mean, my community just was completely on edge about this, was very upset about this, as they should be. We didn't know where he was going to be released, but you can guess that it would probably be somewhere in the Sacramento region,
right?
Which would be a complete disaster. So thank you. I got to say thank you to the DA of Placer County.
Absolutely.
And I'm wishing him the best in terms of hoping they can keep this guy behind bars long term. So, a couple more stories. We can blow through these pretty quickly, probably. Big Supreme Court ruling on what parents should know about in schools. The Supreme Court came out talking about California law that basically said, parents aren't entitled to certain information about their kid's gender identity or whatever might be going on in the classroom. I was opposed to that. I think that was a huge mistake by California. At the end of the day, the government is not the parent. The government is not in charge, right? The parents are in charge, and you may like or dislike what the parent believes. It doesn't really matter. They still need to be informed. So
that's right.
Supreme Court, I think, came through with the right decision.
Yeah, it was a great decision. You can ask any teacher. Teachers will tell you they want parents to be a part of the equation, right? Yep. It's a busy world. They want them to read. They want to be involved. They want you to go to the sports, so on and so forth. And California said, no.
Yeah.
When it comes to this specific issue, no, we don't want you to be involved.
Yeah.
That's hypocritical.
Yeah.
I believe that the Supreme Court made the right decision, putting the onus back onto the parents, saying it's up to the parents to raise them as they see fit. They get to steward that child through their childhood and give them wisdom into adulthood. So I think it was a great decision by the Supreme Court.
I agree, and you make a great point. I've actually talked to teachers that are like, we don't want to be put in this position. Like, we don't want to be like, I can't share certain information. Like, that's a terrible position for a teacher to be in. We want to have open communication with parents. So this law really sort of, I think, inhibited that. And, Newsom sort of decried it and said, we don't, now teachers are going to have to be gender cops and all this stuff. It's like, no, the status quo was that teachers and parents were working together on their child at school. What was going on with their child at school? I mean, that's how it should be.
Barring a safety issue, right?
Oh,
because
of
if
course.
there's a safety issue, then absolutely teachers have to protect that child. But we're talking about
100%.
the other majority of the folks that are out there.
100%. And in those cases, we have laws on the books protecting kids, and we should, right? And so, 100%. That is an important caveat to make clear. Piece by George Skelton, opinion piece on how the Democrats are sort of scared about the top 2 primary in the governor's race. But I think my question more was, I think it's still like an 18 to 30% chance that 2 Republicans advance to the governor's race, which would be obviously pretty crazy in California, given the makeup of the state. But what's been really interesting is none of the Democratic candidates have wanted to drop out. I think one did over the weekend or before the filing deadline, but most of them were like, no, they should drop out or they should drop out, even though the party asked so the candidates get out of the race. But I guess my question to you is, if this were to happen, does that end the top 2 primary experiment in California? I mean, is that what really, because I would say that this experiment has largely failed, in my opinion. I mean, you may have a different view. But, the goal of the top 2 primary was we're going to get more moderate candidates and reasonable people. And what it's really led to is just a bunch of gamesmanship, And so I think the experiment has failed. But what are your thoughts on that?
I totally believe that the experiment has failed. Look, you have people on all, I call it shades of blue and shades of red and those in between, right? And what this does is this gamesmanship, it really does exclude a big groups of people, and we need to get back to fair and balanced, right? You can ask Democrat colleagues, and they'll say, we need more balance in the legislature. You can ask the lobbyists up here, we need more balance in the legislature. Balance is good. Yep. We need that. So going to the polling, I did see a poll that talked about 18% that'd be 2 Republicans and a 73% that it would be 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the most likely course of action that will take place is one Republican and one Democrat. But ultimately, what I believe is when you're in that position as governor, you need to be the arbiter of fair and balance.
Yep.
Right? That's how it's supposed to work, because unfortunately it's not working in the legislature. We'd like it to happen, but it's not happening. And because of that, we have an imbalance.
Totally. It'll be interesting to watch, more to come. A lot of people staying in the race. So, let
the games begin.
Let the games begin.
Right? It's going to be a long several weeks. I think we're at 8 weeks until ballots drop.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a long 8 weeks until we get to see what's happening. Polls will start coming up. Yeah. Everything will start ramping up. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting fights there, Josh. When they get into that octagon.
You got such a great radio voice, man.
I know. That's the face is not
the
good.
Announcer.
Yeah. The radio voice.
I love it, man. They got to get you on some games down in your district or something. So that's actually a great segue into the Newsom book review. I will make one more note since we're talking about elections. The voter ID initiative did qualify for the ballot. Yeah. It appears headed to the ballot as well. So we'll put a note in the show notes, but that is obviously a big deal. It's something that I think the polling shows is not a partisan issue. Everyone supports that issue. Democrats even have high support for that issue. So
opponents are saying that this is going to stop people from getting their vote in because some people don't have licenses and some people can't do stuff. I'm like, guys, in today's day and age,
it's
and the argument that I hear that upsets me quite a bit, people of color like me, people of color aren't smart enough to go get a license.
So offensive.
It is offensive beyond belief. Yeah. And when I hear that argument, it is a racist and offensive argument. So those of you who are using it, understand that is offensive and racist when you say that.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous when people say that. It's an extremely weak argument. By the way, the ballot initiative itself says that for people that can't afford an ID, one needs to be provided for them for free.
Great.
Okay, so problem solved. You just solved it. It's such a red herring. It's such a distraction from the real issue. There was actually a guy that did a video after this was sort of a talking point. This guy did sort of a man in the street video where he went into like a black community and just started asking people if they had IDs and if they were capable of getting IDs. And everyone was so offended. They were like, he did it as sort of a satire, trying to make the point. How ridiculous is this? Like, do you have an ID? Of course I have an ID. What are you talking about? And, well, these people are saying you can't get an ID, and they're like, why would they say that? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's just so unbelievable to me that is the argument that's being made.
And the people that are following that belief system, I'm just looking at them, saying, are you serious? Are you absolutely seriously saying this out loud and nobody is protesting? That you think that I'm less than because I can't, because of my skin color, because of my roots, I can't go to the DMV and get an ID?
Yeah.
That's that blows my mind.
It's awful. So let's jump into the book. You want to hear some stuff about this book?
Ding, ding, ding. Let's ready to roll.
So interesting transition from the top two issue, because actually at the end of the book, he talks about running for governor, when he ran for governor. And he talks about how his campaign was one of the first to utilize top two to win a primary. So he ran against Antonio Villagrosa when he first ran for governor, and then they had John Cox in that race. I think this was 2018, I think, was the year. And Villagrosa was running ads, spending a lot of money running ads, bashing Newsom. Newsom is terrible, right? He's too progressive, whatever, Newsom's team was like, we don't care about Villagrosa. We're not going to do that. We're going to run ads bashing Cox in the primary, in the primary process. And what did that do? Well, it got John Cox's name ID way up there. He became the, sort of lead Republican opponent of Gavin Newsom,
right?
Which means all the Republicans viewed him as, that's the guy I want to vote for because he's going to fight against the Democrats. And then the Democrats said, that's the guy I want Newsom because he's going to fight against that guy.
Yep.
It was the game, and the game worked.
Absolutely.
And he won handily in the primary because of this totally new strategy no one had ever really used. And this is the type of stuff we're talking about when we talk about top two. But that was just an interesting anecdote.
Yeah, that strategy is interesting. How if you look at that and you draw that line into what's happened, and then you continue to draw that line into Prop 50 in the redistricting, Californians keep on falling for the game.
Yep. Yeah.
But the game is broken.
Game's broken. For sure. All right, so rest of the book, though. I'll just give you the cliff notes. I made notes. The entire book. I haven't read the notes.
You read the entire book?
I read the entire book.
Over a weekend?
No. Let me rephrase that. No. 2 weeks. It was been 2 weeks.
Okay, gotcha.
2 weeks. But I read the audio book read by Gavin Newsom himself.
Oh, that was fun.
So I'll be honest with you, it took me a little longer than normal because there were days where I was like, I'm not in a Gavin mood today. I can't handle Gavin today, and then I would I'd take a day off.
Soft voice?
No, it was a little raspy, actually.
Really?
It was kind of his Batman voice, or like I don't know if that's the way to describe it, but it was sort of like the Batman voice. But no, he read the book. It's 8 hours if you want to listen to it on audio. I just put it on 2 times speed. Swung through that thing in about 4 hours.
Better things to do in 8 hours. So it took you 4 hours.
And I read it for you, and now I'm going to tell you, so you won't need to read it after this.
Help me pass the test.
So Young Man in a Hurry is the name of the book, a memoir of discovery by Gavin Newsom. Obviously, this is what you do when you want to run for president. Usually you release a book. Prologue, he talks about, COVID, climate change, authoritarianism, why, all the things that matter to him. Let's see. He brags about all the winemaking, but I thought it was ironic because this book came out right as all these wineries are like announcing they're leaving or closing in California, which is crazy. He was obviously in the wine business as well. So, he starts sort of young age, talks about his undiagnosed dyslexia. I think something I have a lot of sympathy for and want to see more kids get actually diagnosed early. For dyslexia because it does significantly impact your educational career. Let's see. He talks about, it's amazing. This book, by the way, I got to just note how many people this guy knew. So I'm just going to encapsulate this really quickly. His whole argument in this book is I was raised around wealth, but I wasn't the wealth, right? Or the privilege. That's sort of his argument. Because his parents were divorced. His mom was lower income. His dad was the lawyer for the Gettys, so obviously had some money there. But he makes a comparison with himself and the president at the end of the book and says it's interesting. He shares as lieutenant governor, him and Jerry Brown got an opportunity to meet Trump about the Paradise Fire. Trump came to California, took him in Marine One. And they got to meet him, and he sort of describes the first time meeting the president that he sort of sucks you into his orbit, and he's very like charming and all that stuff, which is funny because that's kind of how I feel about Newsom. The few times I've ever interacted with Newsom, he sort of just sucks you into that orbit and just charms you, and like it's an odd similarity. But first time that he met the president, he sort of describes it as me and the president are so different. He was raised wealthy. I was just raised sort of wealth adjacent, And I'm like, dude, you were going on vacations with Jack Nicholson, and he talks he traveled the globe before he was 18, right? He knew Pat Brown, the Pelosi's, his family, actually, one of his family members, I think, married one of the Pelosi's. I mean, it's like the San Francisco politics, he knew, all the major players. And the Gettys, who were one of the wealthiest donors and people in San Francisco. And so it's sort of an interesting line he tries to walk through this whole book where he's like, I'm just a regular guy. But also, I had all these privileges, but it wasn't because, but I'm still a regular guy. That's sort of the theme of the book.
Tell me I'm not privileged by saying I'm not privileged, right? He's absolutely wealth adjacent.
Well, yeah. And I mean, just in chapter 1. Okay, so Newsom's dad ran for San Francisco County Supervisor against Ron Pelosi. So this was early on, and obviously lost, who was his brother-in-law. and then, chapter 2, they talk about some nice stories about his mom and how she was encouraging him to play sports and different things. In chapter 3, this one really, I like this one. All right. Cause his mom, so he was struggling with dyslexia. His mom told him, it's okay to be average, Gavin. That's what she told him. And he was very hurt by that. He did not agree with that.
Okay.
And he said, I'm gonna
prove you wrong, Mom.
I'm gonna prove you wrong. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting sort of psychology of Newsom there. He got really into magic. His magic name was, he called himself the Great Gavini.
I think he's still doing that. Yeah, the Great Gavini.
Well, he makes the businesses disappear.
Yeah.
Oh man, shoot. That was too hardcore. Wow. Sorry, that was a little too hardcore. The Great Gavini. I thought that was funny. He put that in there. He also was a paper boy. He had a strong desire for precision and perfection. He was a perfectionist. That doesn't totally surprise me, actually. Just kind of knowing where he's come. Chapter 4 talks about all the yachts and the planes he rode with the Gettys. Newsom, his wealthy adjacent, right? Yeah. His basketball career, his love for basketball. But I make a note here. He makes it clear Newsom family was a lower station than the Gettys, but he did benefit from many of the same privileges. So it's like, he knew
all of us are lower station from the Gettys. Come on.
Yeah, who isn't, right? Yeah. He also knew Willie Brown really well. In fact, Willie Brown appointed him to the board of supervisors in San Francisco. So, I mean, again, another huge power player that he had a good relationship with. I made a note here. This is totally editorializing. But I said he would become their Anakin. Because at the time, the way it was presented, it was like, we're going to give this guy the board of supervisor seat. And then he just sort of became the chosen one.
Wow. Juan Alanis is loving you right now.
I totally forgot I made that note, actually. He was playing baseball at Santa Clara. This is chapter 5. He started his political career by taking on the bureaucracy because he was a business owner who was pissed off at how hard it was to run his winery and his Plump Jack restaurant business. And so that was part of his whole thing. He was the moderate San Francisco Democrat fighting the bureaucracy.
Took on the bureaucracy in order to create a greater bureaucracy.
You've become the bureaucracy. Yeah. A lot of Star Wars themes here. I'm not gonna lie. Chapter 6, he talks about, Willie Brown, first appointed him to the Parking and Traffic Commission. Big deal. Eventually appointed him to the Board of Supervisors. But Willie Brown called Gavin Newsom his affirmative action pick because when he was put onto the board, there was not a single straight white male on the Board of Supervisors. Wow. So Willie Brown actually called him that. I think that's pretty hilarious. Also friends with John Burton, one of the most powerful state legislators in the last however many years. Mm-hmm. He was very close with as well. So just the more you read this thing, it's like, holy cow. If you're going to go read one chapter, probably read chapter 6. It probably has the most in it. Talks about his time on the Board of Supervisors, some of his political mistakes early on, how he sort of laments that his ties to the Gettys clouded the true picture of who he actually was, right? So he talks a lot about that. Then chapter 7, he gets into the mayoral race, talking about his opponent tried to paint him as the pampered prince, as sort of being so close with the Gettys.
Prince adjacent. Yeah.
But then he became the youngest mayor in San Francisco history at the age of 36. That's pretty dang young to be a mayor of a city of that size. And so pretty impressive. Worked on some police reform early on. Really had a reaction to, he actually went and attended George Bush's State of the Union on the Defense of Marriage Act. This is when Bush really talked about defending, marriage between one man and one woman. That's sort of started Newsom down this trend of we're going to be the first to allow gay marriage or marriage equality in San Francisco. That was actually what was really interesting about him putting that in the book is all the Democrats that told him not to do that.
Oh, wow.
I mean, tons of them. I mean, this was when Obama was still very in support of the Defense of Marriage Act, and there was still a shift going on, I think, politically, but a lot of Democrats told him, you're going to commit political suicide. Don't do it. So I thought that was interesting. He also started his 10-year plan to end homelessness. How's that going? Do you think?
Yeah. When does the 10 years end, or when does it start? When is that plan gonna begin?
This was a long time ago. This is over 20 years ago. Okay. So
that math isn't mathing.
They might have applied for some extensions or something. I don't know.
A couple extensions to that.
But he
rule.
did get into why it was so hard. You know, they did reduce some homelessness early on by a little bit, but then it just became every time you'd get someone out of homelessness, someone else would go into homelessness, and it was interesting to hear him talk about it. Let's see. He talks about banning plastic bags in San Francisco. They were one of the first cities to do that, I believe. So that's interesting. And again, it's so funny. It's like all these climate policies, we all want good climate, good environment, clean air. I actually agree with Newsom on all of those goals.
Right.
But the things that we've done, this plastic bag law being one of them, it's like he actually brags and flexes about his policy today on banning gas cars by 2035. That's in the book, that he wants to get that done still, and he's bragging about it in his book. And yet that is only going to hurt consumers, hurt Californians, make things way too expensive. Our infrastructure doesn't support it, all of these things, right? And even if we got rid of every car, it still wouldn't make a dent in climate change. Right. It's like this idea that we can solve climate change as the state of California and save everybody from it is just so, I don't even know where that comes from.
Disconnected.
How about you prepare for the impacts of climate change? How about we better manage our forests so we don't have the fires that we're having? How about we, instead of blaming climate change, let's prepare, right? Let's pass policies that get us ready for dealing with these new realities, as opposed to trying to stop it somehow. Yeah. Anyway, that's also editorializing. But chapter 8, really the spicy stuff he gets into his affair that he had with his campaign manager's wife and all that stuff. I don't really need to rehash that, but that is something he talks about. Chapter 9 gets into meeting Jennifer Siebel Newsom, at the time, not Newsom, the registered Republican. She was a registered Republican when they met. And he does also talk about his marriage to Kimberly Guilfoyle at some point as well. He loves fly fishing. Learn that in chapter 9. Chapter 10, he jumps into his work on initiatives to legalize marijuana in California, ban high-capacity magazines and guns. He talks a lot about the president, a lot about how amazed he was when the president won the first time. And then he goes into the top 2 thing and how he won. I think my observation, though, was, let me give Newsom one bit of credit here. He always took the open door in politics, right? Which I think some people don't do. I think some of these governor candidates aren't doing that right now, right? Where they're like, no, I'm running for governor. Like their ego can't let them do something different other than run for the highest office.
Yeah.
But, Newsom always took the open door. He took the appointment of the Parking and Traffic Commission. He took the appointment to the Board of Supervisors. When he ran for mayor. He wanted to run for governor, and then Jerry Brown said he was going to run. And so Newsom backed off, ran for lieutenant governor, and set himself up for his turn. I'm putting that in quotes, by the way. I'm not I don't actually mean they're air quotes. And so he was really smart about how he approached this. And so, ultimately, but interestingly, because he was so smart about it, he never really faced a really hard race. And so this whole president aspirations thing, he's about to get into some really hard stuff. And I'm really curious if he's going to be up for the challenge, because he's never really been challenged in a major way in California politics.
Well, after reading this book and giving us a synopsis of this, here's the real question your viewers and listeners are asking, Josh.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the worst, 1 being the West, 1 being the best, how many Rotten Tomatoes do you give this?
Like a
5 being the worst, 1 being the best.
Oh, 1 being good.
1 being good, because it's Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah. So it's less rotten?
Yes.
Well, look, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff in it that it's a very basic political memoir setting up a presidential run. There's nothing special about this book. There's nothing particularly like bad about this book. It's just kind of a snooze fest. So how would you rate a snooze fest?
Well, you can go from 1 Rotten Tomato to I'm not going to give you the words. I'm not going to tell you how to skin the cat, Josh. You need to decide on the amount of tomatoes that Rotten Tomatoes this guy gets. Is it the worst book that you've ever read?
No, it's not the worst book I've ever read.
Or is it only 3 Rotten Tomatoes?
3. Let's give it 3 because honestly, this book is neither good nor bad to me.
Right.
This book is sort of a snooze fest. It's not that interesting. There are some interesting tidbits in it. It's not very long, so it's probably a pretty quick read. But,
So 3 Rotten Tomatoes, and it's a snooze fest.
Yeah.
In air quotes.
There it is.
Done and done.
Yeah, so I don't know. Would I read it again? No, it's not on my list to read again. All right, we got to get you out of here. It's time. We're at that time. Really quick, do we look at Babylon Bee real quick? Just like 2 seconds.
I think we need to close out.
We got to close on something better because that was tough.
Yeah.
Really fast couple headlines in this satirical news site, Babylon Bee. We have Europe under persistent delusion. Anyone cares what it thinks? I don't know if that's. Jeez. Some of these I can't even read, dude. They're so bad. Let's see. God, these are just too dark, man. This is some because they're all about the war and like,
right.
It's just like, man, it's too. So Obama launches a new library. Obama Library to feature interactive exhibit where visitors can print their own birth certificates. I mean, come on. You guys are trafficking in some real lowbrow humor here. Oh, my God. I can't even read that. So many of these are like off limits. I mean, they're just so bad.
They're in the rated R category.
I mean, they're pretty bad. Megyn Kelly goes back to normal after eating a Snickers. I think that's kind of funny. Jeez, man.
Babylon Bee is giving Josh a run for his money as he's scrolling through.
Tearful Trump takes Christine home behind woodshed, which we didn't get into that, but that's pretty funny. Yeah, it takes her behind the woodshed. Her history and the news of the last week.
But she got moved to a whole different position.
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on?
Who knows what's going on? Yeah. So anyway, I think I'm going to stop there because these are just too spicy. Click the link and read for yourself if you want to know the ones I couldn't read.
Yeah.
It'll be in the show notes. Final thoughts before we let you go.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me back so soon. But I think the topics that we're discussing here and the topics that we're going to be discussing in the future for this upcoming year are important to understand and bring clarity to and what all sides are looking at. So I'm excited to see what this year's podcast has to offer. And honestly, I'm just competing against Greg Wallace.
All right. Well, and on that note, Greg Wallace will be back again in the next episode. We've got literally a competition going on. Gonzalez Wallace. If you have ideas for the show, you can email pointoforderpod@gmail.com. Follow the show on @pointoforderpod on socials. My colleague Jeff Gonzalez @ASM Jeff Gonzalez. Myself @Joshua_Hoover on X. Thanks, man. Thanks for coming back. Always a good time, and we'll see you again soon.
Great having you.